My best friend made me pumpkin puree. Final part. This was a gift from the heavens. Serafina's face cycled through shades of green and white. She instinctively tried to hide the bowl of soup behind her back. I can't. This is for Alara, she stammered. The woman just laughed, completely unfazed. What's the big deal? I just saw her refuse it. She didn't even take a sip. Let me have it. I don't mind leftovers. A nurse joined in, trying to smooth things over. Exactly. You worked so hard on it. Someone like Alara doesn't deserve it. Just give it to someone else. You don't need to be so nice to her. Serafina's fists clenched, her knuckles white. Her face grew paler. Just as the standoff reached its peak, her husband, Ethan, appeared at her side. Nobody's drinking that soup, he announced with an easy charm. I was rushing through the kitchen this morning and knocked over the salt shaker. The whole thing went right into the pot. I was in a hurry and forgot to tell Sarah. I'm sure it's inevitably salty by now. He scratched his head, a picture of sheepish apology. All right, no big deal about the soup. Tell you what, I'll treat everyone to lunch to make up for it. My apologies. And just like that, with a simple lie, Ethan defused the entire situation. So, my theory was correct. The system worked on anyone who ate the food she prepared. They were deliberately screening for a mother who was intelligent and beautiful to bear their stolen child. It just so happened that next month, I was scheduled to volunteer at an upscale animal shelter. The director mentioned they had several pregnant dogs who were always ravenous, constantly scavenging for food, even in the middle of the night. I planned to spend a couple of days there. If I could bring all of Serafina's gifts with me, wouldn't that be perfect? I was about to ask her for some of her famous homemade pumpkin puree when she beat me to it. Alara, since the soup and lemonade won't work, I also brought you a jar of my pumpkin puree. It's packed with nutrients for expectant mothers. I smiled faintly, and she immediately pressed the beautifully packaged jar into my hands. Onlookers gasped in admiration. One of the nurses gave her a thumbs up. My God, you should be nominated for Best Friend of the Year. Serafina blushed demurely, covering her mouth with her hand. Alara's just hit the 3-month mark. It's a critical time. She's my best friend. Of course, I have to take care of her. A best friend is family. I'd do anything for her. People shot me envious looks, wishing they had a friend as devoted as mine. I remembered my past life, my soul hovering near her ceiling as she complained to Ethan. This fourth one isn't nearly as handsome as I'd hoped. We should have reset the system with someone else. Serafina, applying her makeup flawlessly, had laughed. Whatever. I only wanted one of her kids anyway, but the stupid girl just kept getting pregnant. It was her body taking the damage, not mine. Popping out a kid felt like nothing. A few free sons aren't so bad, I guess. She'd paused, a cruel smirk on her face. It was kind of fun, actually. It's a shame she died so soon. I could have kept playing for much longer, for her bottomless cruelty, her absolute lack of a soul, had led to my horrific end. Why? What right did she have to do that to me? Now that she was handing me the bait herself, I didn't even have to ask. I placed the jar of pumpkin puree in my bag. Serafina's expression flickered with anxiety. Alara, it's really delicious. Aren't you going to open it and try some now? I smiled and took her hand. It's because it's so good that I want to save it and savor it at home. She opened her mouth to argue, but the people around us erupted in criticism aimed at me. What a fake. It's obvious she doesn't want it. Why take it, then? I know what she's doing. That puree is in a fancy jar. Homemade stuff like that sells for a lot online. I bet she's planning to sell it. Exactly. She's trying to profit off her own best friend. How disgusting. At this point, I didn't care what strangers thought of me. In this new life, my happiness came first. I would do whatever I wanted. But Serafina stuck to me like glue. Alara, you've been sick all day. You have to eat something. It's not good for you or the baby. Please, just eat it. Don't be polite with me. She looked genuinely worried, her act flawless. Ethan's face darkened beside her. Alara, why won't you even open it? What's the matter? You don't think we're trying to poison you, do you? His question stopped me cold. What others thought didn't matter, but I couldn't afford to spook these two. If they suspected I knew their secret, they'd take the puree away, and my plan for revenge would be ruined. Worse, if they realized I knew the truth, they would never let me live. They were monsters in my last life. I had to protect myself and my baby in this one. What could I do? After a moment's thought, I slowly unscrewed the jar. I scooped a small spoonful of the puree and placed it in my mouth. Serafina and Ethan exchanged a satisfied smile. I smiled back. Sarah, you're too good to me. I'm so lucky to have a friend like you. Thank you for caring so much. After a few more pleasantries, they left, arm in arm. The moment they were gone, I booked an ultrasound. Thank God, the baby was still there. I had put the puree in my mouth, but I had hidden it under my tongue, spitting it into a tissue when I pretended to wipe my lips. I had only taken that one spoonful. The rest of the jar was safely in my bag. I went straight home from the hospital and began plotting my next move. But as soon as I lay down, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Serafina standing there, holding a tissue with a smear of orange puree on it. Alara, did you not swallow the pumpkin puree? I found this in the trash can by the elevator. She stared at me, her eyes cold and sharp. My heart hammered against my ribs. Had she figured me out? Before I could answer, Ethan, who was standing behind her, clutched his head and collapsed, falling directly onto me. I screamed. As his dead weight pressed me down, I shoved him off. He blinked his eyes open, feigning weakness, and sat up. He popped a piece of candy into his mouth. I'm so sorry, Alara, he mumbled, his voice shaky. Is the baby okay? We should get you to the hospital, just in case. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I think my blood sugar just crashed. I was seething. My husband and mother-in-law rushed out at the commotion and insisted on taking me back to the hospital. Under the guise of concern, Serafina stood beside beside me the entire time, her eyes glued to the ultrasound monitor, scrutinizing every word on the report. The baby was perfectly fine. I shot her a cold look. What? Is there a problem? She frowned. No, of course not. I was just so worried Ethan might have hurt you. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind when we get home. I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. Her act was seamless. It was painfully obvious she was just checking to see if my baby was still there. She pressed me again, asking why I hadn't eaten the puree. I told her I had, but the nausea came back and I'd thrown it all up. Insisting it was for my own good, Serafina ordered 3 entire crates of her pumpkin puree and had them delivered to my house by truck. Perfect. The puppy's gourmet feast had arrived. I couldn't help but wonder, after all those dogs ate her puree, what kind of precious babies would start growing inside Serafina's womb. The crates of pumpkin puree stacked in my garage felt like ticking time bombs, each jar a weapon crafted from Serafina's greed. By the end of the week, I was volunteering at the animal shelter, slipping jar after jar into the pregnant dogs' bowls. They lapped it up eagerly, their round bellies swelling with pups and Serafina's twisted magic. I watched, cold satisfaction coiling in my chest, as the shelter's golden retriever, lab mix, and even a tiny chihuahua gobbled down the puree. Let Serafina have her heirs, let her carry the consequences of stealing lives that weren't human. 2 weeks later, Serafina called, her voice strained. Elara, can you come over? I don't feel right. When I arrived, she was curled on her couch, her silk dress stretched tight over an impossibly swollen belly, far too big for a human pregnancy at just a few weeks. Her face was pale, her brow soaked in sweat. The doctors can't explain it. They say I'm carrying multiples, but it feels wrong, like something's off. Ethan paced behind her, his jaw tight. We did a scan. They can't count the heartbeats. There are too many. And the shapes, they're not right. I fought to keep a straight face. That's terrible. Have you tried resting? Maybe it's just the stress of expecting so many. Serafina's eyes narrowed. You've been eating my puree, right? You're still pregnant? Why isn't anything happening to you?